I've worn this robe for more than 40 years, long enough to understand that justice has never been only about laws, statutes, or legal precedent. It's about decisions people make when nobody is forcing them to do the right thing. It's about dignity. It's about character. And on a cold, rainy Thursday morning in New York City, case number 24T1A07 appeared on my docket, carrying a name that already felt troubling before I had even reviewed the details. The clerk read it aloud clearly. The State of New York versus Ethan Caldwell. The instant the young man entered my courtroom, the atmosphere shifted. Some defendants walk in quietly. Others arrive nervous, frightened, uncertain. Ethan Caldwell entered like he owned the entire building. 19 years old, no longer a child, but not fully a man either. Tall frame, sharp jawline, fresh haircut, like he had stopped at a luxury barber just before court. He wore a white Dior hoodie that probably cost more than my first paycheck decades ago. Balenciaga sneakers, a silver Rolex reflecting light every time he moved. A belt with a large gold Hermes buckle, making sure nobody missed the message he wanted to send. Even his cologne entered the courtroom before he did. Expensive. Loud. The smell of privilege and confidence. He didn't stand like anxious young defendants usually do. Instead, he leaned lazily against the railing, with one elbow, as if he were waiting outside for a driver, instead of standing before a judge. But the most important thing he carried wasn't the watch, the designer clothes, or the jewelry. It was his phone. Brand new. Black. Triple camera. He kept tapping the screen over and over, as if someone powerful was waiting for his reply. The charges displayed on my monitor painted a far uglier picture than his attitude suggested. Failure to stop for a school bus. Passing on the right, reckless speeding. Then, the final charge appeared: assault on a person over 60 years old. The clerk read that part softer than the rest, almost like she hated saying it aloud. I looked directly at him. "Mr. Caldwell, do you understand the charges against you?" He smirked. Not a smile. A smirk. "Yeah, I understand. Can we hurry this up? I've got class. Over 4 decades on the bench, I've heard every tone imaginable inside a courtroom. Fear. Shame. Regret. Panic. But what sat in front of me that morning was something different. Pure entitlement. The kind that makes a person believe the law is merely an inconvenience. The kind that makes someone treat a courtroom like a delayed reservation. "This isn't a fast food counter, son," I told him evenly. "This is a court of law." He shrugged. "Whatever." Then the victim stepped forward, and once again, the energy inside the room changed. This time, it had nothing to do with Ethan Caldwell. Her name was Sophia Ramirez. 56 years old. Registered nurse, 28 years. Working at New York hospital. Night shift. The kind of nurse who doesn't just clock in and clock out. The kind who stays beside terrified patients long after everyone else has moved on. She wore simple navy blue scrubs. No jewelry, no makeup, hair tied back tightly, like appearance, ranked far below responsibility in her life. And she carried the exhaustion I've seen in hardworking people my entire career. Not weakness. The weight that comes from giving too much of yourself for too long. Her left arm rested inside a soft brace. Purple bruises still marked the skin near her elbow. When she raised her hand to take the oath, her voice trembled slightly. Not because she was weak, but because holding herself together required effort. "Miss Ramirez," I said carefully, "you're here regarding the incident that occurred on Elmwood Avenue on October 14th? Yes, Your Honor. Then I looked back toward Ethan. You see this woman, Mr. Caldwell? She is not scenery in your life story. She is a person. He rolled his eyes dramatically. Officer James Carter stepped forward next. Badge number 317. The type of officer whose calm voice comes from witnessing too much chaos to be rattled anymore, he began reading the report. At approximately 10:47 p.m., Miss Ramirez exited New York Hospital following completion of her shift. She proceeded toward the employee parking lot near Elmwood and Lockwood, where she observed a black Lamborghini Urus traveling southbound at approximately 52 miles per hour in a posted 25-mile-per-hour zone. The word Lamborghini always affects a courtroom the same way. It instantly divides people. Either someone worked their entire life to earn it, or someone's father handed over the keys, and the driver assumed normal rules no longer applied. Officer Carter continued. A school bus was stopped on Elmwood Avenue, with red lights activated and stop arm extended. The defendant's vehicle passed on the right side of the bus, crossing the bicycle lane, and narrowly missing the rear corner. Sophia lowered her eyes, like she was reliving it in real time. Miss Ramirez attempted to stop the driver by waving her hands and yelling that children were nearby. The defendant stopped briefly near the crosswalk before exiting the vehicle and approaching her. I leaned forward slightly. How did he approach her? Aggressively, Your Honor. The defendant used profane language and instructed her to stay out of his business. When Miss Ramirez attempted to walk away, the defendant grabbed her wrist. She pulled away. He then shoved her. The courtroom stayed silent. She fell backward onto the curb, striking her left elbow on the pavement. I looked again at the brace on Sophia's arm. Over the years, I've reviewed thousands of injury reports. But what always stays with me isn't the injury itself. It's when someone gets hurt, simply because they tried to do the right thing. Miss Ramirez, I asked quietly, why did you speak up? She looked surprised by the question. Because my nephew was hit by a car when he was 8. She answered softly. He survived. But he still walks with a limp. And at the hospital, I see injured children all the time. Broken bones, head trauma. Sometimes worse. She paused. I didn't want to stay silent and then hear sirens later. That sentence settled over the courtroom heavily. I didn't want to stay silent and then hear sirens later. Then Ethan laughed. Not loudly at first. Just a dismissive little breath. Then he spoke clearly enough for everyone to hear. She's fine. People fall every day. This whole thing's a scam. Sophia visibly flinched at the word scam, and something old inside me sharpened immediately. Not reckless anger, the kind that makes your focus colder. Mr. Caldwell, I said. You are standing inside a courtroom. You will not describe a nurse's injuries as a scam while she stands here, wearing a brace caused by your actions. He leaned toward the microphone casually. Judge, honestly, this whole thing's blown way out of proportion. My father's gonna handle this anyway. The room reacted instantly, no words. Just that stunned silence that happens when someone accidentally says the quiet part out loud. Then Ethan added the sentence that changed the entire morning. Call my dad. He said it like an order, like I worked for him. I kept my face neutral. Judges learn to do that. But internally I thought, you truly have no idea where you are. Excuse me? I asked calmly. He tapped his phone against the rail. Call my dad. Put him on speaker. He'll explain how this works. I took a slow breath. I've had defendants threaten lawsuits. I've watched people scream, cry, beg, and curse inside my courtroom. But this felt different. This was a young man so protected by wealth that he genuinely believed the justice system functioned like customer service. I looked toward the clerk. Do we have a contact number? Officer Carter nodded. Richard Caldwell, listed at the scene. The defendant refused to sign the citation and stated his family owns this town. Ethan smiled proudly. Like arrogance itself deserved admiration. I looked back at him. You want me to call your father? Yeah, he answered confidently. Go ahead. His posture changed immediately. He straightened proudly, almost excited. He truly believed rescue was coming. I instructed the clerk to dial the number and place it on speaker. 2 rings, then a man answered. This is Richard Caldwell. Mr. Caldwell, this is Judge Judy from New York Municipal Court. Half a second passed before his tone shifted, not nervous, calculated. Judge, what can I do for you? Across the room, Ethan mouthed silently. Told you. Your son Ethan is currently in my courtroom facing charges related to reckless driving, passing a stopped school bus, and assaulting a nurse. Richard Caldwell gave a dismissive chuckle. Judge, I'm sure there's some misunderstanding. Ethan's a good kid. Sophia stared at the phone in disbelief. Mr. Caldwell, I said calmly, your son instructed me to call you. He stated you would explain how this situation works. A pause. I'm not sure what he meant by that. For the first time, all morning, Ethan's confidence flickered slightly. Richard continued carefully. I'm traveling currently, but my attorney can. You don't need an attorney right now, I interrupted. You need to listen. Ethan leaned toward the speaker. Dad, tell him. Richard's voice turned suddenly sharp. Ethan. Stop talking. That hit him visibly, like hearing an unfamiliar language. I turned toward Officer Carter. Do we have video evidence? Yes, Your Honor. School bus footage, hospital parking lot surveillance, and a recorded 911 call. We played the bus footage first. Rain-covered streets, reflecting red warning lights. The school bus fully stopped. Stop, arm extended. Then the black Lamborghini speeding past the right side, as if traffic laws meant nothing. The room reacted quietly. I looked at Ethan. That's your vehicle? Technically. Yeah, but nobody was even crossing. Officer Carter responded immediately. The bus driver reported 2 children were still near the center line and jumped backward. Ethan shook his head dismissively. Of course she said that. Then we played the hospital footage, grainy but clear enough. Sophia walking toward her vehicle after a long shift, the Lamborghini pulling up, Ethan stepping out casually. Sophia raising her hand and speaking, his body language turning aggressive. Aggressive, his hand grabbing her wrist, her pulling away, then the shove. She hit the pavement hard. Sophia turned away from the screen immediately, fighting tears. Ethan watched the footage with almost complete indifference. She fell. I barely touched her. Your hands are clearly on her, I answered. The camera angle sucks, he muttered. Language. Sorry, Judge. But you don't understand. People like her look for opportunities. Sophia's expression didn't show anger anymore. It showed hurt, the pain of realizing someone viewed her suffering as a business strategy. People like her? I repeated slowly. Then Ethan looked directly at me. No disrespect, Judge. But you're not exactly operating at my level either. The courtroom froze. That comment wasn't really about me. It revealed how he viewed everyone around him. Through class, through money, through status. I let silence sit heavily between us before speaking. My level, I said evenly, is accountability. I'd recommend trying it. He rolled his eyes again, but I noticed his foot tapping nervously now. The confidence was cracking. Officer Carter stepped forward again. There's additional evidence, Your Honors. Proceed. At approximately 11:12 p.m., the defendant posted multiple Instagram stories regarding the incident. Ethan's face changed immediately. That's not admissible. It is when the posts directly reference the crime. Officer, Carter answered. The screenshots appeared before me. First image, Ethan inside the Lamborghini grinning, captipied. Almost smoked a bus, LOL. Second image, Sophia on the pavement, caplet. Karen down. Sophia made a quiet sound that barely escaped her throat. Third post, a selfie video outside the hospital. Ethan laughing directly into the camera. Some broke nurse tried checking me. Told her to call the cops, like I care. My dad's got judges on speed dial. I looked up slowly. That's your voice, Mr. Caldwell? It was a joke. A joke? People post stuff online. It doesn't mean anything. I leaned forward slightly. You photographed a woman moments after shoving her onto concrete, and then recorded yourself laughing about it. He shrugged weakly. Officer Carter continued. There's additional footage recovered from Snapchat. A witness forwarded the clip before deletion. Ethan went pale. That was private, not once distributed to multiple people. Officer Carter replied. The clip began playing. Ethan inside what looked like a luxury bedroom. Stork clothes everywhere. Music blasting. He held up his car keys and laughed. Guess who just bodied a nurse and still got home? Then he laughed again. If she dies, I'll send flowers. Gucci flowers, obviously. The courtroom became completely silent. Even Ethan stopped moving. Sophia whispered softly. He really said that? I looked directly at him. You joked about her dying, he stammered. It was dark humor. No, I answered. Dark humor is what people use when conscience stops functioning. Then Officer Carter spoke once more. There is also a related federal issue. That word changed everything. Federal. I straightened slightly. Explain. The Lamborghini is registered under Caldwell Holdings, LLC. There is currently an investigation involving VIN tampering and interstate transport of a stolen vehicle. The FBI requested notification if Ethan Caldwell appeared in court. Ethan's voice cracked immediately. What? That's unrelated. A man in a plain suit rose quietly from the back row. No drama, no theatrics. Badge clipped to his belt. David Brooks. FBI. He approached calmly. Your Honor, we are not interrupting proceedings. However, the defendant's online posts and geolocation data confirmed the vehicle's presence. Following a theft reported in New Jersey, I looked down at the Lamborghini keys sitting on the evidence table. Suddenly, they looked different. I turned toward the phone speaker. Mr. Caldwell, are you still there? Richard Caldwell answered quietly. Yes. Were you aware your son may have been driving a stolen vehicle? Silence. Long enough to matter. Then Agent Brooks spoke calmly. Mr. Caldwell, federal warrants are currently being processed. Ethan's knees nearly buckled. For the first time all morning, genuine panic appeared. He grabbed the railing desperately. Dad, tell them. Tell them who we are. Some people believe a last name protects them from consequences, like wealth itself functions as immunity. I leaned forward. In this courtroom, surnames are not shields. Then Ethan turned toward Sophia and pointed directly at her. This is her fault. If she had minded her business, none of this would have happened. Sophia stared at him in disbelief, not fear, disbelief. Miss Ramirez, I asked gently, would you like to address the court? She nodded slowly. Your Honor, I don't hate him. I don't even know him. But I work with children at the hospital who never get second chances. I sit beside mothers who would do anything for one more day with their child. Her voice trembled softly, and he stood there laughing. She paused again. I have a 17-year-old son. He wants to become a paramedic. And I keep wondering, what if someone like this hits him someday and posts a video about it afterward? The courtroom reacted quietly, not outrage. Recognition, everyone crossing the same moral line together. I looked back toward Ethan. Your father cannot fix your character, I told him. Only you can. Then I addressed Agent Brooks. Agent, are you prepared to take custody if necessary? Yes, Your Honor. Ethan gripped the railing tighter, and finally, the powerful voice he had relied on all morning returned through the speaker, but now it sounded smaller. Judge. Please. What can be done? I answered calmly. Now you're asking the correct question. I looked toward Ethan. You wanted your father called. You got exactly what you asked for. His voice barely existed now. I didn't mean. Yes, you did, I interrupted. You meant every word until consequences arrived. I reviewed the charges one final time. Reckless driving, passing a stopped school bus, assault, and the federal investigation waiting beyond my courtroom. This court cannot decide the federal matter, I said. But I can decide what accountability looks like here. Then I turned toward Sophia. Miss Ramirez, you work nights helping strangers. You attempted to protect children you didn't even know, and were injured for doing so. She wiped tears quietly. I just want him to understand. I looked back at Ethan. Understanding usually costs something. He tried one last time. This isn't fair. I finished the sentence for him. Unfair is shoving a nurse onto concrete and posting photos afterward. Unfair is laughing about children near a school bus. Unfair is believing wealth determines accountability. Then I issued sentencing. Magmasems, statutory fines, $500 for illegally passing the school bus, $300 for reckless driving, full court costs, 90 days suspended sentence, 1 year formal probation, mandatory anger management counseling, permanent, no contact order protecting Sophia Ramirez. Then I continued. And because you chose to mock a nurse's work, you will now learn what that work truly looks like. He looked confused. 200 hours of community service, inside a hospital volunteer program approved by probation. Not a comfortable office, not a wealthy neighborhood charity. You will transport patients, move linens, carry equipment, and perform the invisible work that keeps hospitals functioning. He shook his head immediately. No, absolutely not. Then you'll serve the 90 days. He turned desperately toward the speaker. Dad! Richard Caldwell answered hollowly. Ethan! Do what the judge tells you. Ethan looked at the phone, like he no longer recognized the voice speaking through it. Agent Brooks stepped forward quietly. Mr. Caldwell, We'll speak once proceedings conclude. Please don't complicate matters further. Reality hit him in pieces. Sophia still standing there in her brace. The videos, the FBI agent, his father no longer rescuing him. This can't actually be happening, he whispered. But it was happening. I let silence settle once more before speaking quietly. You have a choice now, Mr. Caldwell. This can either become the moment you begin becoming someone worthy of respect, or confirmation of exactly who people already believe you are. He stared down at his expensive sneakers like they might provide answers. Sophia remained beside him, still injured, still dignified. You will also write Miss Ramirez a genuine apology letter, I added. Not something written by lawyers, a human apology, and you will read it aloud in this courtroom, at your compliance hearing, on January 19th, at 9 a.m. Yes, Your Honor, he whispered weakly. I nodded. As the bailiff escorted him away, Ethan turned once, and for the first time, that entire morning, he looked truly afraid, not afraid of me, afraid of losing the world he assumed would always belong to him. The speakerphone clicked softly. Richard Caldwell spoke quietly. Judge. Thank you. I answered honestly. Don't thank me. Then I paused. Raise your son. After the courtroom emptied, I remained seated for several minutes. Over the years, I've watched countless lives divide into before and after because of a single decision, a single cruel moment, a single shove, and sometimes accountability arrives just in time to pull someone back before they disappear completely into the worst version of themselves. Justice is not revenge. Justice is balance. It is society declaring that no one stands above the law and no one falls beneath basic human dignity. Sophia Ramirez did not enter that courtroom chasing money. She came because she believed speaking up matters. In a world addicted to performance and noise, she chose courage instead. Ethan Caldwell entered believing his last name functioned like currency. He left understanding it was only a word. And words do not erase video evidence. Sometimes I think about my father. He believed a person's value had nothing to do with cars, clothing, or powerful connections. He said, real character is revealed entirely by how someone treats people who can offer them absolutely nothing in return.